In 2011-2012, two expansion teams were added into the mix of clubs in the AFL, those being the Gold Coast Suns and the GWS Giants. Teams that followed a very similar early trajectory in the league, the past couple of years have been very different for both sides. So what caused this difference, and what's in store for these teams in the near future? I'll unpack this and more in today's video. Before we get started, only about 8% of you guys are actually subscribed to the channel. That number is going up, but let's keep seeing ourselves new records as a community. Show the Discord some love, let me know what you think of the video, and without further ado, let's get into it. The first bid by a Gold Coast based footy team to join the AFL was in 1996, through the form of the Southport Sharks. Port Adelaide joined the league instead. After many more bids and funds put into this venture, the Gold Coast Suns joined the AFL. In the same decided expansion, a Western Sydney team was decided upon, which would end up being named the Giants, forming as an AFL footy club in 2012. These two teams had a couple of things in common. They are from states where rugby is a more popular sport than footy, and a lack of a fan base to start with. But the differences in the beginnings of these clubs is what made the difference in their long-term success. GWS was allowed to sign up to 12 future prospects before their inaugural season. Some of the players that ended up on the roster included Jeremy Cameron, Dylan Shield, Adam Treloar, and Josh Bruce, to name a few. They also received picks 1, 2, and 3 in the 2011 draft, where they selected Lockie Whitfield, Jonathan O'Rourke, and Lockie Plowman. On the other hand, Gold Coast only got pick number 1 in 2010, taking David Swallow in the process. The Suns also picked up arguably the greatest player in the history of the game, Gary Ablett Jr., on a reported $9 million deal over 5 years, a huge sum to get the star across. And this signing did allow Gold Coast to gain some early momentum in terms of gaining fans, and securing some star power in their side, but they still weren't a great team, finishing between 12th and last between 2011 and 2015. They were good in comparison to GWS though, who in that same time span didn't leave the bottom 3 slots on the ladder until 2015, where they started to see some reward for their efforts. The two clubs seemed to employ different strategies through their first couple of years, and although it was apparent that GWS got slightly more help from the AFL, they didn't care about winning straight away, and let their youth develop under Leon Cameron for the majority of the time. Gold Coast under Guy McKenna and Rodney Rocket Eade seemed to heavily rely on Gaz Jr. to get them wins, and seemed to feel pressured into wanting that immediate winning satisfaction, or they just fluked a couple of decent seasons, but couldn't afford to sign better players mainly due to the lack of pull from a club like Gold Coast, but also with money tied up heavily in Ablett staying with the team. They couldn't develop players on the level that GWS did. Even players that wanted to leave the Giants were usually flipped into important pieces, and high draft picks usually turned into decent or star level players. The Giants also seemed to draft better overall, whether that be based on luck or skill. And the effects on how these teams went through their first couple of years in the league was evident in the success or lack thereof shown in the past 5 years or so. From 2016 onwards, GWS finished in the top 8 4 consecutive seasons, and even made a grand final in 2019, where of course they lost to the Tigers convincingly. But even with this loss, this monumental run put their progress into perspective and reflected how far they'd come since their inception. The development of players such as Jeremy Cameron, Toby Green, Stephen Coniglio, Josh Kelly and Tim Taranto was crucial in these finals matchups, all of which who were drafted to the club. Gold Coast saw the end of Gary Ablett's time at the club in 2018 and had still not made a finals appearance despite him earning a Brownlow in the red and gold. His absence saw the side return to bottom dwelling, hitting somewhat of a rebuild and investing in youth prospects coming through their system. But the Giants have been better for sure, and fans may wonder, two seemingly similar clubs in terms of finances, audience, etc., and one seems to have been vastly more successful in the past couple of years. It might just be luck of the draw, or it could have come down to the coaching, development, and how well the clubs are run in terms of financials and player management. There's no true way to 100% know, but we always speculate as footy fans. According to Zero Hanger, Gold Coast have drafted the worst out of any team this century, picking notable players with high picks, but also a large number of busts that just can't be ignored, such as Harley Bennell. In the same article, GWS placed in at 13th, and have created some top level talent such as Josh Kelly and Toby Green. But even they also had some players who never pulled through in playing ability, such as Dom Tyson and Liam Summer. Fast forward to the modern day, and the roles that the clubs assumed so far in their history have seemed to have been reversed. Gold Coast are looking promising, knocking on the door of their first ever finals appearance, and GWS, with a declining outfit in both performance and youth, were just able to hang a couple spots above of the wooden spoon this past season. GWS have hit a rebuild and picked Aaron Cadman with the first pick in last year's draft, as well as stockpiling a bunch of other picks, With a new coach in Adam Kingsley, it'll be interesting to see how they fare this season. For Gold Coast, a finals appearance seems to be now or never, with talents such as Touk Miller, Matt Rowell and Ben King. I'm sure every AFL fan would love to see the Suns succeed and finally break that barrier, although I'm not too sure if they would go too far in the postseason with their current list. They lost star forward Isaac Rankin to the Crows, but should be able to fill that hole and push through. For once in their history, they have high potential players who can actually turn the Suns into contenders, possibly in the next 5 years or so. With that being said, they still have a ways to go. A problem encountered by both teams was that a large percentage of high value players would opt to leave when given the chance, such as Boyd, Treloar, Taranto and Cameron for the Giants, and Dixon, Lynch, etc. for the Suns. It's hard to prove that you're a competitive club worth staying at when there aren't a large number of triumphs and trophies in the cabinet, or a large enough market to convince players to stay loyal. I can only see this issue getting resolved with time. This past decade, GWS have received $203 million from the AFL, and Gold Coast were handed $198 million. They were two of the AFL's biggest investments, and who's to say if that investment has truly paid off yet. Gold Coast recorded a net loss of $2.6 million overall in 2022, and rugby remains the strong favourite in both Queensland and New South Wales. But who knows what the future holds, or you might see a day where one of these former expansion teams lifts the ultimate trophy after winning a grand final in front of tens of thousands of fans. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a like, as it lets me know what you guys enjoy and want to see more of. Bit of a shorter video this week, but I'm working hard to stay consistent with that one video a week upload schedule, as well as working harder on the TikTok page, live streams and YouTube shorts coming soon. More footy content on the way soon, so make sure to like and subscribe for future Sportsfield content. Have a good one, and cheers.